every one of you is courageous for daring to be a school administrator at a time when schools are being recklessly closed because of low test scores. When CSA was created in 1962, those who led the public schools were revered as deities in their communities. Now your heads are on the chopping block. You're not a deity anymore. You're inundated with useless paperwork. Once principals had a vision, now they have data. It is the inappropriate application of a business model, an effort to create a marketplace in education in which parents are seen as consumers, students are the products, and educators will be fired if they don't raise test scores every year. What our policymakers don't seem to understand is that public schools are essential public services, like a firehouse and a police house. You don't close them if things are going wrong, you help them. They work best through collaboration and teamwork, not by competition for test scores. What New York City needs most today is a good public school in every neighborhood. What New York City needs most is equality of educational opportunity, so that all children have the chance to get a good education no matter where they live. Clearly, that's not the case today. More students are graduating, but most of them are graduating unprepared for higher education or for the modern workplace. It is the responsibility of the DOE to support schools to make sure they have the resources and the personnel they need to succeed. Public schools are not shoe stores. They're not burger chains that can be closed and opened at will. In many communities, closing the public school is a knife in the heart of the community. Unfortunately, people of enormous wealth and power who belong to no community do not understand that. We have a totally unaccountable school system. The mayor appoints whomever he wants as chancellor without regard to their qualifications. The chancellor is accountable only to the mayor, not to the public. The mayor appoints the majority of the PEP, and they listen only to him. The PEP, of course, is a rubber stamp for the mayor. I can't even remember anymore what PEP stands for. What we have lost with mayoral control is not only accountability, we've lost democracy. There is no role for parents or for communities in the decision-making process that affects the education of their children. There is no forum in which members of the public can make their views heard. No one cares what they want, what the public wants, or what parents want. No one cares what they want or what they think. They can speak at PEP meetings, but they will not be heard. The old Board of Education, with all its problems, had one thing going for it. It was transparent. There were very few no-bid contracts, and when they were presented, they were debated at open hearings where the public could comment on them. Today, the DOE casually awards multi-million-dollar no-bid contracts with no hearings, no public review, no scrutiny, and no accountability. When things go wrong, there is no accountability. We don't even have stability. In the absence of democratic participation, the chancellor reorganized the entire school system again and again since 2003, and you've lived through all these reorganizations. What else have we gotten as a result of mayoral control? For years, we were bombarded with extravagant claims about test scores. For years, the mayor and the DOE boasted about the New York City miracle. They went national. They went international. There are whole countries now, like Australia, changing their education system to be like New York City. But in 2010, to the credit of the regents, under the leadership of Chancellor Tisch, the New York State Education Department commissioned an independent investigation of the state scores. It had become obvious that something was terribly wrong because the state scores were flying through the roof at the very same time that scores on the NAEP, the federal no-stakes test for New York State, were flat. They have been flat for most of the past decade. The investigators concluded that the state test had become too predictable over time and too easy. The scores were vastly inflated. Since the collapse of the city's claims about miraculous test scores, the DOE has now taken to boasting about the graduation rate. It's now up to 65%, but unfortunately, far too many of these young people who graduate are poorly educated. This means that the graduation rate is as meaningless as the test scores. And I understand why it's going up. When people put the screws on you and they tighten them and they tighten them, you will respond to try to hit the target. That's what happened in Atlanta. That's what happened in Washington, D.C. We've seen scandal after scandal where when you make numbers your goal, you get the numbers and you forget education. And that's what's happened here. Now we're at an impasse in the state over evaluating teachers and evaluating principals and teachers. The mayor and the governor demand evaluation by the test scores of the students, with the scores counting for 40%. Their demand contradicts an explicit agreement between the unions and the state when New York applied for Race to the Top, and at that time they agreed that the scores would count for only 20%, but our political leaders want to increase it to 40%. No high-performing nation in the world is using value-added methods of firing teachers, firing principals, and closing schools, and calling it reform. Judging teachers by student scores and principals on a once-a-year test is simply ridiculous. So what do the children of New York City need? Children in New York City need what children everywhere need, only they need more of it. They need high-quality early childhood education. They need it because the achievement gap begins long before the first day of kindergarten. They need experienced and knowledgeable teachers, not a revolving door of newcomers. They need experienced principals who have had successful careers in the classroom. They need small classes so they can get extra attention when they need it. And some may, in fact, need one-to-one tutoring, which is what the best funded charter schools are able to provide. Those that have like the Harlem Children's Zone, which has $200 million in the bank, they are able to give their children one-to-one tutoring. Children need the arts. Our children need science and laboratories. They need history and civics. They need foreign languages, and they need physical education. Children need physical education not once a week, but every single day. Children need time for projects and activities. They need singing and dancing and time for play. They need the same full and rich curriculum that children of the wealthy get as a matter of right. They need libraries with librarians. They need social workers. They need guidance counselors. They need handicrafts because making things and tinkering teaches skill and patience and dexterity. That's gone from our schools. They need health clinics. They need dental care. They need regular vision screening. They need equality of educational opportunity. The children whose needs are the greatest must not be shortchanged, and they must not be neglected, and we are shortchanging and neglecting their needs. What do you need? You need support. You need the tools to do your job, and you need what is most precious today, which you don't have, and that is respect. There is strength in numbers. The DOE can't fire all of you. So I urge you to take a stand for your professional dignity, for the dignity of your teachers, and the well-being of your students. Together with courage and in solidarity, we can change this situation. Together in solidarity, we can end the mean-spirited attacks on educators and on public education. Together, we can and we must support the hard-working men and women who lead and who staff our city's schools. As the richest nation in the world, we must provide, and you must insist on, the best education for all of our children. It may not happen today or tomorrow or next week or even next year, but you must never lose sight of that vision and that goal and that hope and that promise. Thank you very much.